proud parent of Jesse Evans up here, and we're here today really to launch the annual fund for Roots. Roots School started last fall with a wee 13 kids, and now we're up over 17, and we'll start next year with 29 and probably pushing 36. So there's a strong demand for private education here in the Valley, and we're happy to kind of get Roots started as an institution to help meet that need. We're here to raise money today for scholarships for Roots. We can't touch every kid in the Valley, but we can do for a handful what we wish we could do for the many, and in that way positive change gets started. We're here today to raise money for new technology for the school and programs. We've got a structure where the tuition of the school basically covers its operational costs in terms of building and teaching. But the annual fund really takes that base, that stable base, and elevates it to a new height. And this is kind of the first step of doing that. And we really envision this as a cornerstone of the school. So if you fast forward 10, 15 years, the annual fund will be a big piece of how the school, like I say, elevates itself and improves itself year over year. We've set a lofty goal for this year, $30,000, and that's going to start today. We've already received a matching donation of $5,000, so every dollar you give today is essentially going to be doubled, which is a great start, and we're going to follow up with some letters to folks that couldn't make it today. We've got it recorded, and so we'll share this video with them and pursue our goal over the next couple of weeks and months to get to that $30,000. And I just really appreciate as you're taking this presentation today that your thoughtful consideration of how you can help us reach this goal. In terms of our structure, we're going to be talking for maybe about 20-30 minutes. You'll have a chance to hear from a teacher, Rachel Robinson. You'll have a chance to hear from a parent, Krista Fromm, and her son, Logan, who's going to read an essay that he wrote. You'll have a chance to hear from a citizen in the community that's super passionate about private schools and schools like this. It just so happens that it's the significant other of Rachel, so Al Robinson is going to speak, and they are really the dynamic duo, along with many parents and others that have led the school to this date today. And then we're going to wrap up with another student. Ellery Utek is going to read her essay about what she likes about Roots School. And we're going to take a break real quick. You can put a donation in the box if you'd like. And after that intermission, we'll come back and we've got some violin music while we do the counting, and then we'll kind of celebrate as a group what we've contributed or pledged to today. So with that as an overview, are you kids ready to go? All right, so the kids are going to start out singing the Roots song, which they sing, I think, most days when they get school started. So stand up, kids, and take the stage.
Down to the earth, my roots go down.
Thank you, kiddos. Before we move on to our first speaker, I did want to just say a few quick thanks. First of all, Michelle Fanton isn't here. She's over selling wine in the tasting room, but she is kind of one of the dynamos behind Tunnel Hill and was gracious enough to help us get set up. And then my dad, who's in the back with Tunnel Hill Winery as well, has offered up this space for us today, so we're real grateful for that. And second, we have a lot of parents and board members that have really kind of stepped forward to the call of duty and done all of the logistics of this. So big thanks to Krista Fromm, Lauren Stepanov, Leanne Castle, Kimberly Province, Ora Sanderson, and then all of the other parents and board members that helped out in ways small and large. So thank you so much. That's how we get things done. So great organizations are really founded on strong vision, which can range from a small business to a large company or a nonprofit of any size in any place across the land. And those that are leading Roots really have this aspiration, as I mentioned, that it would be an organization that would be a cornerstone of the cultural strength of Chelan, the Lake Chelan Valley. And so towards this end, we've really spent some time working on our vision, which you see up here to my left, which is to cultivate generations of learners, generations of humble, tenacious, and innovative learners, that is, that enrich this valley and the world. Humble because there's always new things that we need to learn, and the minute we think we know it all, we've just kind of fallen into a trap. Tenacious because problems will always come up, and it's only through sticking to it that we can get through those. And innovative because our world, as we all know, and sometimes pant to relate to, is changing faster than any teacher can prepare their students for. And so these kids really need to be innovative in self-learning once they're out there on their own, and that's a cornerstone of the vision of Roots. I'm really proud to introduce next the first speaker who really embodies these traits of humility, tenacity, and innovation. She has long enriched this valley with her educational presence, first at Chelan Valley Independent School, then at Morgan Owings Elementary, and now at Roots. And she's no stranger to most of us in the room. Please put your hands together for Rachel Robinson.
Again, thanks everyone for coming, and thank you to all the people for all the hard work. Can you hear me clearly? Okay, great. My job here today is to just try and create a little bit of an understanding for all of you of the essence of what the classroom experience is like at Roots. And I would like to say that this week, for one of the lunch recesses, we went across the street from our school to the Lakeside Park. It was 75 degrees, blue sky. We have 45 minutes to enjoy lunch and our recess running around. And there was a bald eagle there, and it was up in a tree for 10 minutes. We all watched it. The crows didn't like it. It was an interesting thing. And then we sat on the concrete looking out at the water and ate our lunches, and I thought, I really have a good job. And that is part of Roots, is the enjoyment of every day. And that same enjoyment that we have out at recess, we have in the classroom as well. And part of that is because we have time. We had time for recess and lunch to enjoy it. And we have time to enjoy our learning and to enjoy our discoveries. So I am going to be pointing out some things around the room that for you to just take note. We're going to have that little intermission, and I encourage you to take note of them. And before I do that, I just want to say 5 of us also went to a school called the Bridges School in Burien on Thursday to look at it, to get ideas, to learn from it. It's a multi-age school. They have 38 kids. They've been around 7 years. And one of the things that I was in particular and spent the most time was in the older kids' classroom. It was 9 through 12-year-olds. because I wanted to see these kids, almost all of them had been in the school from kindergarten, and I was really wanting to see their interactions. What is it producing? Because that's the thing that matters the most to me, is what are we going to produce for these guys and the other students that aren't able to be here today, and for our new students next year. And what I loved to see, what I loved on Thursday was that these students, the teacher gave them a task, and it took some real thought, and it took a lot of communication, and let them go at it, go with the task. And they were in groups of 4 or 5, and they were communicating, they were all participating. The answers, what they're trying to find wasn't obvious. The longer they went, there was more challenges, so they, on their own, went and got the dictionaries, and they got their research packs, and they were communicating how can we problem solve and get everything we need for this assignment. And there was a level of communication and maturity in their communication that it thrilled me, because that's what I want for these kids. That's what we want to create, are leaders for our future, and what Guy just mentioned here. And it just gave me a lot of hope for what we're doing, because I felt like what we have going on this year as a first year is, we're doing a good job. And it's very exciting. I also want to just, especially outside, there's a couple of the tables here, these green signs that have different things written on each one. There are guiding principles for the classroom experience, and if you were to just walk around and read them, you'll begin to get a sense of the goals for our instruction and the daily flow and what it feels like in our classrooms. And on one of those, it does talk about writing. And writing is a critical point. Writing is something we do non-stop in this modern era. And so it's one of our guiding principles, and it's somewhere out there, I don't know where. But I do want to point out that the kids wrote essays. They only had about 5 days of half hour to work on them. They did a very good job in that limited amount of time. But they wrote about why they like roots, and it's worth noting, some of the things you'll notice they have fun learning. They like to be able to work at their own level and pace. They enjoy being challenged. They like feeling less stressed and pressured. They love the math program. They love the writing program. So I encourage you to read those, and we will get to hear from 2 students in just a little bit. And another one of our guiding principles is that we're a project-based school. And it says for project-based schools, or project-based learning refers to students designing, planning, and carrying out an extended project that produces a publicly exhibited output, such as a product or a community service project or a publication or a presentation. So over here, on the far left of those 2 student display boards, is a display that 2 of our students, Tiana, right here, want to raise your hand, Tiana? Ooh, there it is. Tiana and Brielle, who's not here, entered that in the Invent Washington contest. All of our students entered an invention. A lot of them worked together, and they won first place. 2 students won 2 of our displays, or our entries won first place. But they won first place in their division, the kindergarten through 2nd grade division, and in their category, farm and animal, and it's very clever. So I encourage you to look at that. And Invent Washington is part of our curriculum. And there's at that table it talks about Invent Washington. It's a statewide program where kids invent something and then they take it to a regional competition or state competition. And the reason it was this was formed was because research is saying that 65% of the jobs that these kids will have as they grow up, they haven't even been created yet. We don't know what those jobs are even going to look like. So we need kids that can problem solve and are innovative and know how to own it. And so we're trying to create that with these guys. And at Roots, the Invent Washington it's one example of how we promote critical thinking, problem-solving, innovation. But I wanted to mention and collaborative communication, because they worked in partnerships. Even Tiana and Brielle on that one, you know, it wasn't always smooth sailing. They didn't always agree. And all the kids found that. Another group that worked together, they're great students, strong students, they're passionate students, and they had trouble agreeing on something as they were creating their display. And it got to the point one day where they were both in tears. They were trying to communicate through their tears and working hard, and it was great to the next day to say, you know, I'm so proud of you guys, you did it. You worked through something really hard, and you created something to be very proud of, and that was really exciting. And then one more display that we have is the Cherokee Tribe display here. Peyton did it, she's not here today, but we studied Native Americans as part of our theme of roots this year, and how they're part of the roots to our community here in Washington State and our country. And that's an example of our balanced and integrated program. We did a lot of art with that and cooking. We learned about salmon, went to the Salmon Festival in September, and just a few weeks ago we went to the museum in Wenatchee and their Native American I can't say the word I want to say, but their display, anyway. And so the kids had a lot of opportunity for hands-on. Peyton's home isn't here, but she had to design and create a home, and they sewed little models of the clothing. And so it's just an example. They did a tremendous amount of reading, especially the older students, and they did a lot of writing. And so just integrating it all together. And so let's see, I think I get off my notes so then I have to put Bob down. Yeah, the last thing I would like to say is our doors at Roots are always open. I don't think you begin to get a feel for what it's like there until you come and you see the small groups working, you see older students interacting with younger students, and you get the feel of a little bit of the magic there of when there's a hum of everybody's having a good time. They're learning a lot, but they're into it. And so please feel free to come and see us.
Thank you, Rachel. So next up, we're going to hear from a parent, Krista, like I said. But first of all, I wanted to share 5 more words with you, because as you're leading a board or a group, words are significant. They begin to tell the story of where you want to go and what you see yourself as. I spoke of the vision already, but these next 5 words are lead, discover, develop, intelligence, humanity. Lead, discover, develop, intelligence, and humanity, and they are the cornerstones of our mission here at Roots. Hang on. There we go. I was going to coordinate that with one of the kiddos, but we didn't do that. So that's our mission, is to lead kids to discover and develop their intelligence and their humanity. And I just wanted to, call out a few key words on that front. First of all, leadership. Most of us need to learn how to learn. We come out of the gates, we'd probably just rather sit in front of a flat screen somewhere. And so it is about leadership, and that's what Rachel and her team do an exceptional job of in the classroom every day. But it's also about these kids right here, and I'm speaking to you right now, kids, because you do the work. You do this work of discovery, and then you do this work, once you've discovered it, of developing it. And it's almost like you're playing Minecraft and you're digging in the dirt, and finally you find something, you discover it, and then you have to develop it. You have to take that thing that you find and polish it. And it may be that some of you really like music, some of you love math, some of you love words, some of you love bringing people together, some of you love listening to people's hearts and really caring for people. And you don't know everything that you have yet to discover. That's why you have these years ahead of you of school. And that's what you get to do every day at Roots, isn't it? You get to discover and develop the full expression of your intelligence, and there's lots of different intelligences I just spoke of, and your humanity. And that's what Miss Rachel spoke of in terms of learning how to work together. And gosh, I'm kind of not really liking that idea that Jesse has right now, but we got to talk about it a little bit. And Ella Ray really wants to do this, but oh my gosh, and I'm just having a bad day today. And oh my God, that person across the room is really getting to me, right? That's learning about your humanity and really just kind of understanding your own personality, your own nature, and how it fits with others, because we come together as a body. That's how we get things done, as a group, as a community. And so that's our mission that's our mission, that we pursue every day. So next up, we are going to hear from Krista Fromm, speaking about Roots from a parent's perspective, and then Logan's going to pipe in the middle with his essay, and how these themes of discovery and develop are manifested differently in different children. So please put your hands together for Krista.
Good?
Good.
Okay. We moved to Chelan in January, and when we were kind of looking at the community, we happened to be in the park one day, which happens to be across the street from Roots, and this group of kids walked into the park with their lunch boxes and their leaders, and we just watched for a while and kind of wondered who they were, and after watching them for a little bit, we figured out we needed to know exactly who they were and how we could maybe be a part of that once we did move to Chelan. So that's how we found Roots. They just walked into the park and found us, basically. So, as I thought about what to say today, I wondered kind of if I should lean more towards my mom's side, but I also am an occupational therapist, and that I use that a lot also when I'm thinking. And then I figured out I couldn't really separate the two, because we had Logan right as I was graduating OT school, so I really became a mom and an OT at the same time, and I haven't been able to separate them ever since. So, we're all born with varieties and differences and temperaments, and some of these differences are advantageous for us very clearly, like a high IQ is very useful as you move forward, and others can make life a little more difficult. Logan went to a small preschool where we started to notice some of his unique qualities. Loud noises, sudden changes, and having to sit down for too long didn't really go over well with him. And in that small school, it was pretty easy to manage because there were, I think, 6 kids in his class in the first year. So, I mean, it's really easy to regulate that in that situation. Then he started kindergarten, and when he turned 6, we waited until he was a little older. And our Spokane school was pretty small overall because it's an older building and it hasn't been remodeled, so you can only fit so many kids in a school that's really little. But in the kindergarten class, there were 28 kids coming in. And many of those were not prepared for school on any level. I mean, they just had never been in school before and had never had to sit down and sit still, and they had no idea what they were doing. It was loud, it was crazy, it was chaotic and stressful, and that's with an amazing teacher. I mean, she's still one of our good friends because she was so good with us and so good with Logan and all the other kids, but there's only so much you can do when you have that much happening in one small room. We started Gavin and I, who's sitting over here, started volunteering as much as my work schedule would allow, just so there was another person in the room. The couple kids who needed someone with them at all times could have someone sitting with them. And we also skipped a lot of school that first year because we just needed a break. And we did what we could, but then sometimes we just needed to stay home and be away from it. We skipped so much school that we got a letter from the school notifying us that our child's education was important and that maybe we should show up more often. We know, because education is important. That's why we were taking breaks from school. because I don't think he was learning very much when he had his ears plugged and his head down on the desk. I felt like maybe he could get more at home with us. This is Gavin, in case anyone doesn't know him. He'll be in Roots in a couple of years. Almost every day was a struggle to get ready for school. He said, Mom, I don't want to go. Mom, I don't like school. Mom, can't we just homeschool? I don't want to be there. But he wanted to go to the classroom after school was over and hang out with the teacher and with her kids for hours. Arriving at his own school was also an issue. When I was in elementary school, we got to show up early. We got to play Foursquare, swing on the swings, play on the playground. I mean, we could show up kind of anytime we wanted to. But we learned on Logan's first day of kindergarten that things are different now. We're not allowed to show up early. They were not allowed to run around. They were not allowed to play on the big toys or the playground. And you were allowed to stand in line and keep your hands to yourself and be quiet, basically, which is kind of hard when you're a kindergartner and you are full of energy. So we would try to show up kind of right as the bell was about to ring or right as the bell rang. One of our last days of school, I was walking with Logan and one of his best friends. We were walking up the grassy hill towards the school, and the playground attendant saw us coming, a little later than she maybe would have liked. And so she said, "Hurry up, boys!" So these boys immediately start jogging, being obedient and, following instructions. And then the next thing she yells at them is, "Don't run!" Because they weren't allowed to run before school. And all I could think was, what a terrible way to start your day. And how confusing for them, because they're just trying to listen, and they don't know what they're supposed to be doing right now. And what ridiculous rules to not be able to allow kids to run in the grass. I mean, what's wrong with running in the grass? I don't know. To contrast, our first day at Roots, we had a 30-minute window to show up. We didn't have to stand outside in the rain and the snow. We were welcomed into the school. We were welcomed. Nobody yelled at us when we showed up. We knew what we were supposed to do. Rachel explained how the morning kind of went and what the expectations were. Logan was brought over to some other kids, and they were playing and talking with each other, having a good time. And they even welcomed in little brother, just kind of joined in the group. Logan had initially asked me to stay for his whole first day because he was scared starting a new school. I mean, we drove into town the night before, and we had boxes everywhere in our house, and he went to school the next morning because we were already a little late for the January session starting. But in less than 2 hours, he came over and he told me that it's okay. You can go home. You can unpack boxes. I'm fine. I'll be fine here. So that's what I did because there was a lot to do. But I also couldn't wait to come back and pick him up and just see how the day had gone. He told me he loved his new school. He had a lot of new friends. Sometimes he still doesn't want to get ready for school. He wants to stay home in pajamas all day, which I think we all can appreciate. We do that sometimes. It's not because he's dreading school, though, which is, I think, to me, makes all the difference in the world. And now Logan wanted to read his essay next. Right? He wanted to come up with
Why Roots is a Quieter Place is just the title of my essay. I like Roots because it is a quieter place. My old class was bigger and way too loud for me. It was so loud I couldn't even focus. It made my head hurt when it was so loud. It made me want to run away when it got too loud. When it was loud, I look around and I don't get my work done as quickly. Because there are fun activities at each person's interest level for them to do, they stay focused. If the work was too hard, kids would be complaining or give up. If the work is too easy, kids would be asking the teacher for more work every 2 minutes. Another thing that helps it be calm is there are different areas for people who need space. Some people have really good friends so they don't get their work done when they are close to each other. At Roots, kids can separate out and stay focused easily. My old school lunchtime was shortened because of loud kids. At Roots, we have a nice long lunch. My new class at Roots is smaller, which is nice because there's not as much noise. We can easily ask people to calm their voices. My favorite part about Roots is the quieter environment.
So I think every parent has a story as to how this school has impacted their child and their family. As an occupational therapist, I kind of see these kids through a different lens sometimes. I see the dyslexia, the dysgraphia, the dyspraxia, the weak hips, the low tone, the motor issues, the sensory processing differences with different groups, or developmental differences. I mean, they bring all that in with them. That's what makes us all unique. I feel these quirks make these kids exactly who they are and who they're supposed to be. But they're also sometimes part of the reason that these kids needed this school. And parents are willing to spend their money on tuition instead of going to the public school. They just knew something needed to change. Our brains and our nervous systems are different. We seem to accept this with adults, and adults choose their jobs and their environments accordingly. You know, they know kind of what their needs are and what their quirks are, and we figure out where we fit. We continue to expect a one-size-fits-all school approach for kids, though, and they're drastically different. The Roots Community School gives these uniquely normal kids the attention that they need, not to just survive school, but to thrive and to grow in school. Someone who maybe couldn't read to start with and was kind of afraid to talk to adults that she even knew fairly well is now able to read books out loud as well as speaking to a crowd on the microphone. Kids who were bored and just kind of going crazy at school because they were just so bored, they're being challenged and they can level up in the areas where their strengths are. And the kids are extremely proud and excited when they do get to level up, right? The kids who have sensory needs can meet their needs appropriately without being punished. And the emphasis is placed on the individualized learning path instead of arbitrary grade levels. The kids can help teach each other, which further solidifies their learning, as well as teaching them empathy and patience and understanding that other people don't always think the way we do. And I think that's important in school as well as in the workforce, in relationships, in marriages. You know, that's useful everywhere. We need options for our children. We need to teach kids at their pace in an environment where they can learn and thrive. I really feel that these kids will be ready emotionally and socially and academically. They'll be prepared not just for higher grade levels, but they'll be prepared for their adult life and their work life. And thank you for supporting Roots School. That's all I have.
Thank you, Krista. As a longtime resident of Chelan, I'm always happy when we get a new family that comes to town and just jumps right in. So that's so exciting to have her kiddos and she and her husband forming another layer of our rich community. So you all up front and you all in the crowd are doing great. We got two more speakers, one big and one small. So then we're going to take a break. But what I wanted to mention before we get to this next speaker is we've heard a lot about this mission year and discover and develop and intelligence and humanity, and that's all great. We all have to focus on that. That's why we send our kids to school. That's why we go to figure out education. But here's the thing. It takes a roof, a foundation, a heat pump that works, and correct zoning from the city to get this done. And it's a challenge to just deal with the basic infrastructure of starting any business, let alone an educational business, which is essentially what Roots is. And so we're going to shift now and really speak about how we are approaching those really basic needs as a school. And that's been a journey in and of itself, one that's been exciting, very fruitful to date, one that does not yet, is not without its pitfalls ahead as we need to navigate more just settling into our physical space. But we have a home, and we have a home largely because of the vision of one man, and that's Al Robinson. So please welcome Al as he speaks about his vision for the space at Roots.
So we're getting casual here. I like this. All these, I marked all of these. I could walk around and do those. I'm at Roots. Now that I'm at Roots, I can write from the heart. Here's one. Learning. One reason how Roots helps with learning is it's at your own pace. I marked every one of these. I'm not going to go around and do them all. I love attending Roots is because I get to choose what I write about. I like that. That's from the kids, and there's really a lot of neat statements on there. And we're dragging a little bit, so I won't go around to every one of them. Rachel said I had to write it down, so I wrote it down. Guy said I had to be short, so I'm short. I'll tell you that I get emotional when I speak. And it's from the heart, and it's about kids. And what can be better than kids? Helping out kids. I was involved with the Chelan Valley Independent School for a lot of years. Our 3 children went there, Houston, Mandy, and Bryce. All went through that program. I would definitely say that I would choose that for them again if I had to do it over. Why? I think why is here in this statement. The vision to cultivate generations of humble, tenacious, and innovative learners that help this valley and the world. There's a lot of potential there in that. And that's a good thing. I mean, that's a big statement. And I like that. And that's why I would do that here. And I feel my children are doing that. I'm happy about that. In one word, and a lot of this is already reviewed. Rachel mentioned these words. I think Guy did too, but leadership comes to mind when I talk about what we're doing and trying to do. And that covers a lot. And it just is the word that comes to my mind, leadership. And I feel, in this situation, okay, it's bottom line stuff. There's no greater return to us than to help children in this life. I really believe that. And there's just nothing, no ROI or anything like that. It's the greatest return to us as individuals, is to help kids. So, Guy kind of talked a little bit about the business, the building, and I'm not going to get into that a lot. But it's a new year. We're brand new. It's our first year, and if you would have asked me a year ago that I would be up here and have bought this building and doing what we're doing, I said, what are you talking about? But it opened up through the building, the Livingstone Church, and parents, and there was a push, and so it's opened up through the building purchase and through the Roots family. A lot of people here today are the Roots family, and I would say that we're not trying to reinvent things. We're trying to take the best of what we find and know through other schools and through the collective experiences of everyone here to make a greater good. So it's not, Rachel mentioned the visit that we had over there, perfect example of not trying to reinvent or create something new, but to use the best of what we already have and then expand on that and use our inputs as parents, family, grandparents, people who want to get involved. And the goal is of creating a self-sustaining community school that will make a difference for the greater good. And I say self-sustaining for the plan is to have this go beyond us. I would immensely enjoy to see this outlast all of us and just have this as a permanent part of this place in the valley and a permanent part of these kids' lives and what they can bring back. I mean, that's a big hope that those that we teach today can come back and make a difference. Because I think some of you might really be able to help this school in 20 years. We have a really good plan in development. I mean, we're still, we're working it. This purchase was in November, so we're 6 months in. And we've got some learning to do, but we have a good plan, we have good leadership, great location, great city, good people involved, good parents involved, and again, the students are really doing well, they're thriving. And Rachel mentioned it, but to go into the class and see, it's special. It's still a difficult journey that we're undertaking, and it's about stepping up and making it happen. And that's kind of why we're here today. And so today we need to improve our school, to improve Roots Community School and the Lake Chelan Valley. Bigger picture stuff. It does. And that's through your financial help and generosity. Yes. And it's a move to the greater good. It's more than us. It's the kids. It's what can happen down the road. So thanks for coming and thanks for your support.
Wow. Ellery, I'm going to have you up in about 2 minutes. Are you ready? There we go. So just real quick, as Al mentioned, our goal is to raise $30,000. We're going to use $10,000 of that for scholarships, basically to go out and help kids that maybe can't get over the bar financially with their families and just need a little extra help. We're going to take $5,000 of that and use it for technology this year. It can be a great help in the classroom, and so that ranges from some speakers to iPads to computers and the like. And then we're going to take the balance of that, $15,000, and use it for existing and new programs. And one of our existing programs that really was kind of novel to me, just thinking about having that in a classroom or educational environment, was yoga. And I've done yoga, lots of us in this room maybe have, and certainly know the benefits of it, but just to imagine it in the context of a classroom and teaching it to these bright young minds really was like, wow, is that going to work? I mean, can they sit still? Are they going to learn how to breathe? What are they going to do? And so it's really exciting for me that I get to invite up Ellery Utek, who's going to speak specifically to the thing that she loves about going to Roots School, among many things I know, but it's her love of yoga. So come on up, Ellery. Please welcome Ellery Utek.
are several things I like about yoga. First of all, we have yoga during math rotations, and it gives my brain a break. It calms me before my brain starts working hard again, and it makes me more focused, so it's easier to do math. Another reason I like yoga are all the different yoga positions. Sometimes we do wall sits and headstands, which is fun. They also help us get stronger. If the position is too hard or it hurts, we can do child's pose. Some of my favorite positions are cobra and partner boat. The next reason I like yoga is every Wednesday, if we're good, we get yoga game day. Yoga game day is where we do fun games and add yoga to them. For example, yoga heads at 7-Up is basically the same, but we do yoga poses while we close our eyes and people tap on their thumbs. Finally, what I like about yoga is that at the end of yoga class, even at the end of yoga game day, we lay down and the teacher gives us a little mini massage and there's calming music. Yoga is just one of the reasons I like Roots. Come to Roots and decide for yourself what your favorite reason is.
Thank you, Ellery. So in a couple minutes, I'm just going to break and we can do some financial support of Roots. I do see Carrie Travers back there, who is another amazing instructor in the Valley that teaches violin, and so she's going to play piano over here in a little bit, and my daughter Jessie's going to play some music. So stick around for that. I wanted to just kind of, as a final note, just say that I'm standing before you here, obviously as a dad. We're all really passionate about getting an education for our kids, and you know that's a big piece of it. But as someone who's a fifth generation in Lake Chelan, my daughter's the sixth. Towards Al's point, you get to sense generationally that there's no better investment than the next generation and helping them get along. And so I get passionate about this vision and this mission of Roots through all of the work that it entails, because it is work, just because of that. Because we have this opportunity to cultivate generations of humble, tenacious, and innovative learners here in this valley. And you know, who wouldn't want to get behind that? And so with that, I'm just going to break us up. I want you to consider that this is a 501c3, so there is a nice tax benefit ramification to your donation. Consider that we accept pledges over the next 9 months. So I know I made a pledge that I can't pay today, but I can over the next 9 months, and I would take those. Consider that we hope to raise $30,000. You know, we're coming out of the gates with pretty large numbers for Chelan. And we recognize that that's you know, an opportunity for us all to really consider how much we're called to support. Consider that we have this $5,000 donation already, and consider the generations of learners. The first of which is right here before us here today, that will come to be those that enrich this Lake Valley and the world. So with that, you'll find some pens and paper out there. A lot of you have already put your envelopes in the donation box, so you can do that right at the back here. We're going to take about 10 minutes and then come back together. Jesse's going to play some violin music while we count up all the dollars, and then we're going to have a big celebration as to how much we've raised, and we do appreciate your presence here today. So thank you very much, and let's go give. Gary. So, the moment of the big reveal, and I'm actually adding 2 checks that we received already at the school this past week. So, there we go. So, this is exciting, and like I mentioned, this is kind of the beginning of the campaign, and we'll be reaching out over the next weeks and the next month. But we today basically are oh, hang on. Oh, there's another check coming. Look at that. I was getting to time out. Anybody else that wants to double up here? Very good. Well, I'll just add that right there, and that just basically takes us within $5 of $13,000. So thank you everyone for starting out and getting us almost halfway there with the $30,000 goal. That's a great start. So with that, we're going to round out the day and put a little plug in for what's coming up in about a month at the Roots Community School. It's a year with Frog and Toad. Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen, it's the first annual theater production at Roots Community School. Hopefully it's a spring tradition. And the kids are going to do a little music piece from this musical that they're working on, and they're getting their books right now. And I'll just sort of stall until they're ready to go, but it's going to be great. So I think the dates are the 24th and the 25th.
23rd and 24th.
23rd and 24th, which is a Wednesday and a Thursday, at 7:30 p.m. There's a lot going on those 2 nights, so we bumped it back by a half hour just to accommodate community schedules. And I think we're having some preschoolers come out at 2 o'clock on that Wednesday, the 23rd. So that's going to be exciting. So without further ado, please welcome the Roots Kids doing A Year with Frog and Toad.
I know they are. They're coming.
We got one more coming.
Okay.
Miss Cheryl Kriego has been working with the kids, but she wasn't able to make it today, so I'm her stand-in. You don't need it?
Thank you everyone for coming. Have a great next year until our next event, and thank you for your support of the Roots Community School.